David, how are you?
I'm good, Jared. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. All the better for seeing you.
Ah, good, good, good. Yeah, what's new? What's new over there?
Well, it's hot, but that's not new. There's
How
a
how hot? How hot are we talking here?
pretty hot, although I will say I noticed yesterday, I think it was London was every bit as hot, and presumably other parts of the UK were as well.
Yeah, because we're having quite the swelter here. I just before I started complaining about it, I just wanted to make sure that you're not like what are you talking about? It's like 150 degrees over here.
No, it's like low 90s, which is what, like 32 or 3 or 4 or
Yeah,
something.
that's where we're at. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, but of course it's like when you age a dog. Like if a dog's 7, it's actually like 58 or something. Like you have to apply the qualifying factor of it being British temperature, which means like 32 over here is essentially like the surface of the sun as far as we're
Yeah.
concerned. Like people
Well,
would be,
especially since you don't have air conditioning in most
yeah, yeah,
places. Um,
yeah.
so yeah,
No homes have air conditioning. Like
I-
often, business places or large shops will have it, but like no homes have air conditioning.
yeah, but I imagine you're not just like hanging out for 12 hours a day at the shop simply because they have air conditioning. So you're probably suffering at home at the minute.
Yeah, it's been really hot today. I made the mistake of doing gardening, which I don't like to do anyway. I'm really not a gardener. When I say gardening, my idea of gardening is essentially it's a war on vegetation. Like I'm a destroyer. So things that are grown large, I just attack them and murder them and like just cut them back to nothing. Let them
We
know
we have
who's
a
boss.
similar philosophy there. Then that is definitely my approach as well.
So I reduced a very large tree to a pretty embarrassed looking sapling. So yeah, I win.
Yeah,
Now,
man.
you had a show on Thursday, didn't you?
We did. Yeah, we decided we would try to switch things up a little bit. Figure the world is tired of hearing my songs
Well,
because
you've
it's
done
been
like 16 gigs now, haven't you? Or is it
something like
16,
that.
17, something like
I've lost track. 16 sounds right. Yeah, I think that's about it. Um, yeah, so we decided rather than play my boring old nonsense, we would do a battle of the Toms, or at least two particular Toms, Tom Petty and Tom Waits, and I picked a handful of tunes from each of them, and yeah, we did a gig.
Yeah, nice, good. I mean, that's a couple of pretty good catalogs to choose from. So
Yeah,
I now, full confession, I have not seen the show yet. I've been kind of busy with my own thing, which I'll maybe tell you something about later on. But so tell me, I'm intrigued to know. As soon as you said that's the show that you played, I was like, okay, well, I know what my set list would be. What's yours?
well, there were a couple of deciding factors there. One, uh, unless you're David Ford and you can play loads of instruments and you have loads of instruments, there are certain tunes that you kind of just don't even attempt without a big band behind you. But I also wanted to maybe not pick a lot of the super obvious ones.
Yeah.
Didn't want to pick like you know Free Falling or
Hmm.
something. Great tune, don't get me wrong, love it, but no one needs to hear me sing it. So I chose. Well, let me think if I can remember the order. I think we kicked things off with um, "Long Way Home." Tom
Right.
Waits,
Yeah. Oh, it's a great song.
great tune from the Orphans record, and I know
Yeah.
North Jones covered that as well at one point.
See, I think he may actually have written that for Nora Jones. I think that was
Really?
yeah, a song written for her. I could be wrong in that regard, but I think her version sort of preceded his as far as it
Interesting.
seeing the light of day.
Well,
Um,
both both great versions.
yeah.
So yeah, that was the first one. Next one, so we were alternating Tom
Okay.
from Tom to Tom, and so "Long Way Home." Then Tom Petty, I think we did "Built to Last," which was
Okay.
from his "Into the Great Wide Open" record,
Hmm.
um, which is one I've done before, but I always just really like the tune. From there, I did. Picture in a Frame, Mule Variations,
Uh-huh.
which is the one that I've done previously.
Oh, I've heard you do that one many times before.
Yeah, that one I didn't have to learn,
Yeah,
thankfully.
yeah. That's the cracking tune.
From there, back to Petty did You're So Bad, which was
I think I know
from
that.
Wildflowers,
Right, okay.
which is another great tune. Did that one on this funky old 60s Vox Mando guitar that belongs to our mate Brett,
Hmm.
um, which is this cool, tiny little. It's shaped like an artist's palette would be, which is a weird shape for a guitar.
Yeah, well, those Vox guitars are kind of weird anyway. With that teardrop thing, I was never that into them myself.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, they're weird, but this thing's cool. It's essentially like a 12-string guitar if you capoed it at the 12th fret. So it's an up an octave. Sort of has a mandolinish sort of vibe, but you play
right.
like. So the played that one on that tune, which was cool. From there, it was another Mule Variations tune, Hold On,
Yeah, that's
which was
such a good
fun.
album. Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel like it's one of those records that's become a classic, like like a proper big classic many years after
yeah,
the event. I mean, it was great at the time, but I think there are certain artists whose legend and folklore has grown. I think Tom Waits is definitely one of those, and and I think Mule Variations really stands as you know something of a high-ish watermark, although in a career of many.
yeah, absolutely. Um, what came after that? It was back to Tom Petty, that is. It's Good to Be King. I don't know if you know that tune.
So I don't see it. See it reminded me like I pretty much only know the Tom Petty like probably greatest hits
Yeah,
compilation record and like the couple of records that I've got in the pile back here. He's someone who I think maybe in this country, obviously is huge, but not kind of as huge. There are some things that are massive in the US and not so much here, and I'm sure vice versa as well.
yeah,
But
absolutely. Yeah,
I don't think Tom Petty ever reached that kind of you know Bruce Springsteen
yeah.
scale. I could be wrong. Maybe that's just my own.
No, I think that's a pretty accurate assertion. I think that's probably true. Um, yeah. So, like I said, trying to pick some that were maybe less familiar for a lot of people. So yeah, It's Good to Be King was from actually that one was from Wildflowers. You're So Bad was Full Moon Fever, both of
Right,
which
okay.
were two solo endeavors. So it was just Tom Petty rather than Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Yeah,
Even though a lot of the Heartbreakers played on those records.
yeah. Oh yeah,
Um,
because Full Moon Fever, that was the one he did with Jeff Lynne, is it?
yeah, I think that's right. I can't remember if it was that one or if it was Wildflowers that he did with Jeff Lynne, or both.
I thought.
I thought Rick Rubin
I was
was
gonna say
involved.
Wildflower was Rick Rubin. I thought.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
it would have been Fountain Fever, which would kind of make sense because I think that was around the time George Harrison put out Cloud Nine and all of that. I
and
think.
also it's like dripping in 12 string and
Yeah.
those like
Like 8 guitars
and
all strung
stack
along.
harmonies and stuff. Yeah, yeah. It
Yeah,
sounds like every Jeff Lynne record before and since. So
pretty much. Yeah. Yeah, so It's Good to Be King, which is a bit more of a rockin' kind of tune, which was fun. From there, back to Tom Waits. Did Green Grass from Real Gone.
oh wow, you didn't sing it as low as he does, right? Because that is on that
I
record he sings it like almost like subsonic.
Oh yeah, I was singing it in the same key. Since I wasn't doing the like growly
Mm,
version of singing, it sounded a little bit higher, but it was fairly low.
wow.
But I love that tune, such a
Yeah.
gorgeous song. And then close things out with a tune called "You and Me" from the Last DJ album
Yeah.
by Tom
Don't know
Petty.
that one.
It's definitely one that was kind of a lesser, not a lesser known, but maybe a slightly undervalued
Mm.
Petty record. It came out in like the mid '90s and had a bunch of great tunes on it. You know, there were no humongous hits, but a lot of really solid songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. Eight tunes, four of each. Made the best
Nice.
time.
Yeah. Did you get an idea of who was the winner? Was there a competitive element? Was it put to the vote? Was there a
No, we should have done that. We should have said, after the fact, vote on your favorite Tom. But no, we just played the tunes.
nice? I mean, I'm a Tom Waits guy, but then, like I say, it's I've not done my due diligence really on Tom Petty. I've sort of had a very sort of superficial
Mm.
glance at his work to my great shame and embarrassment. I should give him a further crack. I've always found like the I don't know if it's just something about his big hit songs, but they're so simple.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, they are.
almost to the point where like there's part of me that thinks it's too simple.
Yeah. I mean, there's no denying that it is very like meat and potatoes kind of songwriting. Really simple chord patterns, chord structures. But he does a lot with a little. I think that's part of why I'm so intrigued. Like I grew up a Tom Petty fan. My dad always had Petty playing when I was a kid, and the song stuck with me, until now. But it wasn't really until a handful of years ago, after I'd been playing music for a while, and I started kind of looking back at those tunes, and like they are dead simple, but they're really, really good. They're really well written, well crafted songs, particularly for a rock and roll band. You know, his songs were stories. They weren't just your typical, really trite subject matter. They were great songs, and there weren't many wasted words, and really memorable melodies that you can sing anytime, whether the music's playing or not. They stick with you that much. So yeah, man, definitely worth digging in.
I think simple and good is hard.
Yeah.
Is really challenging, especially kind of the longer you do things. I kind of think that probably like the earliest songs that any of us try to write end up being start off being these three chords and very simple words. I don't know if it's the same for you. And then you start to learn a few tricks and your songs get way more complex.
Hmm.
And then I think there is something to be said for them realizing that actually sometimes the beauty of simplicity is a really important thing, and actually quite a difficult thing to do well. So I think so for me the thing with Tom Petty is I listen to some of his stuff and go, this is so simple. And I think you're right, you call it meat and potatoes, which is not to be insulting or denigrating, but like sometimes meat and potatoes is fills you up, does a job.
Yeah, no, I mean there's a fine line there, because there are songs that are bad songs just because they are incredibly simple is maybe not the right word for it, but pedestrian or amateurish.
Or shallow, it's like
shallow. Yeah, I mean if we're talking subject matter, especially shallow.
Well, but not just subject matter, just like delivery. Like you can write a shallow song on a very deep subject. If you don't have the necessary skills to present it well.
Yeah.
I think.
But yeah, if you can pull it off in a way that that is at once very accessible for everybody in its simplicity, but then makes you actually consider whatever they're talking about, or makes you feel something. That's a pretty handy trick, and he was really good at it.
Do you ever write consciously with an idea of whether what you're doing is simple or complex, or do you ever kind of think, well, this song needs to be like structurally bizarre, or do you even sort of consider that, or do you just sort of let it flow out organically and then look at it afterwards and kind of go, well, that one's pretty damn simple, or that one's pretty complicated?
for me, what usually happens is I'll start writing a tune, and then a lot of the times the ones that are fairly simple I get really self-conscious about because they are so simple, and so it's kind of like, well, this can't be it. You've got to change something. You need to like throw some funky chord in there, or do something, because obviously if it's this simple and this straightforward, it can't be good, which is not true a lot of the time. But
You need to
but
be getting your Tom Petty hat on and kind of go, what would Tom do?
Tom do,
He would just leave it as is. He just
Probably.
repeat it over and over again.
Yeah, he definitely would. Yeah, so that's definitely something I have to kind of check myself on, because sometimes simple is exactly what you need, and a lot of the times the knee-jerk reaction is, ooh, that's maybe a little too simple. I should fix that, when actually it doesn't need fixing.
Yeah, and it takes a certain sort of audacity and bravery and boldness and all those kind of words to go, no, this is it. It just has this 3-chord rotation for 3 minutes, and there's no chorus.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's how it must be.
Absolutely.
But anyway,
I know.
What are you drinking?
We've skipped a very important step here.
I know.
What am I drinking today? I am having a highball.
Oh.
So I have put a little bit of whiskey, which I'm using Woodford Reserve bourbon. It's not the best thing to use for a highball, but I have a bottle of this and I don't particularly like it, so why not use it for something like this? And then a little bit of Topo Chico mineral water, some ice, voila.
Nice.
Yeah, man. What about you?
Well, it's hot, so I've got this Creek. So it's Belgian.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that it's like as strong as wine. Okay. Although it does have the champagne cork top. So yeah, so it's Belgian beer, but it's cherry flavored.
Ooh, okay.
And it is to be poured over ice.
Interesting.
And it is just the most delicious and refreshing. It basically tastes like fizzy pop. And you know me, I have quite the sweet tooth. So
you do indeed.
It's I love this stuff so much. I was very excited to get hold of one of these for the purposes of our conversation. Cheers.
Both with our hot weather beverages.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's so refreshing and delicious.
Good man. So do they make other flavors, or is it always cherry?
Cherry's my favorite one. You can get like raspberry ones. So they're not like these it's not like a sour. There's kind of a craze for sour beers. I can't really get behind those. Like these are sweet, a little bit beery, but it really satisfies the child in me who misses just their Corona Cherryade, which you probably wouldn't have had over there. But just absolutely delicious. I was in Belgium a few years ago, not performing, because as you know, I don't play in Europe for reasons that I've never really understood. But I was just over there with some friends on a holiday watching football.
Yep.
On TV, we go to foreign countries to watch football on TV. It really makes sense. It's a great time. And
your World Cup trip.
This would have been this was the World Cup of 20. I want to say. Oh no, hang on, it was the last one, the one that we did quite well in, despite actually not being terribly good. Yep. Went to Belgium, and the really strong beers don't actually do that much for me. Like the flavor of them, they're all a bit kind of like soapy and
yeah. Kind of syrupy too.
Yeah, syrupy and thick. But like, the cherry ones, oh my goodness, especially on a hot day, they do the business. and they're comparatively weak, so you can just drink it like it's pop. So.
Now you say comparatively weak compared to like a normal Belgian beer, which would be like 19% or something.
Yeah, this one is 4.
Oh wow, yeah.
Okay. So you know they're around that sort of kind of mark. So you know it's not alcohol free, but it's definitely, you know, in the pantheon of Belgian beers. It's just a tickle. Yeah, but delicious and very refreshing. And yeah, and like I say, you have it on ice, and that just makes it even more so.
There you go. Cool. Well, we talked about my show. I know you've done, I think 2 since I've last.
Yes.
Spoken. Did you do one yesterday?
A
couple of days ago.
What day is it today? Today's Tuesday, so I did one Sunday, so 2 days ago. Okay. Yeah. Yes, I did one. Yeah. And 2 weeks previous. So the one 2 weeks previous was the random songs show, which was which was exciting and actually, you know, went kind of well given its capacity for disaster.
Yeah.
So that was good fun. And then the one that I did a couple of nights ago was, so I got myself in this position. I've been doing shows every 2 weeks, and it was like the second Sunday and the last Sunday of each month. And then we get to August, and I realized that August has 5 Sundays in it. I'm like, so now do I leave 3 weeks, and then I do the second and the last, or the second and the fourth, or the third and the fifth, or like, I don't know. I didn't know which Sundays to choose in August. And so I was like, well, in that case, what I'm going to have to do is I'll do this Sunday and then next Sunday as well, and then we're sort of, you know, back up to rhythm again. So essentially, I did this week's show as like a bonus episode.
Right.
So I didn't have a theme or anything. I've been doing these themed shows. So there was no theme, and it wasn't a milk and cookies. So what I did was I sat at the piano and I played a 40-minute medley of I think 20. I don't know if I've got my list somewhere. Like, hang on a sec. I've got a list over here. Let me just. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, that's the wrong list. Anyway, that was an old list. But like, you know, 20 songs or something, all just mashed together.
Wow.
From start to finish. It was great fun. It was really exciting to put together, because you know, I didn't just want to play all songs in the same key, and I wanted to have all the songs sort of somewhere where they feel good in my singing range. So I was having to like crowbar in like key changes and trying to navigate my way from, oh, this song's in D, but I need to get somehow to B flat, and so it was a case of trying to find songs of mine. I don't do many songs with key changes in it or kind of shifts of key within the song.
Yeah.
I've got a couple, so I utilize those. And then I was also trying to think of like a cover songs that I knew where it's like that's got a big key change in it, so I can get from this song to that song. And so I was sort of navigating my way through a bunch of my songs and other people's songs.
Right on.
To essentially get back to where I started again. And it was great fun. I really, really enjoyed it.
Nice one.
Yeah.
So what's next?
Next is this coming Sunday, because this is the two shows in a week. I am focusing on my very, very difficult second album, Songs for the Road. Yeah. Not exactly sure why. I think it's probably the most interesting of my records as far as the story behind it, like, because it's got a lot of baggage in that record. It was a very difficult one to make.
Sure.
As the cliche of the difficult second album goes, but it was particularly difficult, largely because it's the only one of my solo records I've ever made with the assistance of a record label. And you know, that brings with it a whole stack of difficulties. But yeah, so I'm going to be playing a few songs and telling some stories, and hopefully keeping my mental health in check while we do that.
So are you you're only doing selections from the record? Or are you playing it top to bottom? What's the plan?
I don't think I'm going to play it top to bottom, because largely because I think that then the show's going to go on for a long time. Because I think there's one of the things I like to do with these shows is to actually do a whole bunch of chat and to invite people's interactions and answer questions and tell stories and reminisce a little. And I think if I do that and play every song off the record, then we'll be there all night. So yeah, I might try and play the songs that I don't so often play live. I mean, that said, even though it was a very traumatic record, I think I probably play the songs off that record more than any of the other ones that I've made. It is, I don't know if you feel the same way, and it is a cliche, but your records are like your children, and you love them unconditionally, even when you know they're not very good. I say this as a parent of a child who suddenly got quite difficult in her third year, but no, she's great. But there's something about your really difficult records, your difficult babies. I find that you sort of love them a bit more for it because they they need it. And I still have great affection for the songs. Weirdly, not so much for the record. I realize I've not listened to that record probably since it was made. But I play the songs all the time. But I've no idea what the record sounds like.
It's probably better to stay in the dark on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Although I will say my first child, as it were, my first album, Ashes on the Ground, I don't like it very much.
Yeah.
Not a fan.
All right. Well, that's fair enough.
Yeah. It had moments, but I was just a kid. I was 20, 21 whenever we were making it, still in school, had no idea. I'd only been playing guitar for like 3 years, much less trying to write tunes. And, there were moments on there and a couple of tunes that I still think are all right and some ideas that I think were actually really interesting, but was still figuring out how to do. I mean, we're all still figuring out how to do all of this, but I was really still figuring out how to sing, how to write, how to perform, how to do all of those at the same time. So yeah, that one I'm more than happy to ignore and pretend it doesn't exist. But all the rest I'm very protective over.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I am actually with my, because of course I have 2.5 albums that we don't talk about from a previous existence, and that's kind of how I feel about the first the earlier works of the artist formerly known as Easy World. So yeah, you have to, you got to grow up sometime, and you got to put your earliest things out there. I suppose the only thing is, it's how far out there they get. There's an extent to which if you own and control your earlier works, you can make them disappear. Or if you signed to a record label that no longer exists and has been bought and sold many, many times since they released your records, they forget that you exist, and they, I don't think the Easy World catalog is on any of the. I could be wrong. I don't think it is anyway. Again, I've not been looking for it, but I don't think it's on streaming services.
That'll be something to check out.
Yeah. Weirdly, I think our first mini album, which was before we even got our record deal, I think that is out there. Right. And that is not a good record. That is. It was charming, but it was it's not a good record. But you got to start somewhere, and where you start is usually with a big barrel of mistakes, or what you later perceive to be mistakes. At the time, you think it's the greatest thing in the world. Yeah. I would say that like being an artist is the great challenge is balancing, is finding the balancing point between being so arrogant you can't function as a human being and being so self-loathing that you can't function as a human being, and somewhere in the middle, because you need a bit of both. You need to be confident, but you can't be too confident, and you need to remember that that you are fallible and that you have mistakes in you, and that not everything you do is going to be great just because you thought of it.
Yeah.
And I think there are people who suffer at both ends of this. Some people who are so lacking confidence that they can't actually put their first step on the road, and then you have, I guess, Kanye at the other end. I got proper obsessed with learning songs on the piano, key changes. Like, I'm big into key changes now. It's made me think everything I do is gonna have a key change in it.
The big like dramatic key change where it just goes higher, or like really funky key, like Beach Boys kind of key changes.
My favorite ones are actually Bee Gees. The Bee Gees are like my favorite. Like, I mean, I suppose not my like headline favorite songwriters, but like whenever I am looking at playing a Bee Gees song, and it's not that often. Like, there's a couple of them in the Red Book that come up at Milk and Cookies sometimes, but I love what they do with the musical structure in their songs. Like, they're key changes in the middle of verses. So I did. I played Chain Reaction, the Diana Ross song written by the Bee Gees, and it's so the chorus and the verse are in a different key. The chorus has a key change in it, and then it manages to get back to the key of the verse, but then at the end the chorus itself then like keeps just modulating and shifting keys. So like every time you get, every half of a chorus is a different key from the one before, and it's like it's just going all over the place. But when you listen to it, it just sounds fluent and effortless.
Amazing.
But and I think that's what I love, not just because it's sort of not being clever for the sake of being clever. Like, the melody is absolutely running the show. The melody is incredible. But in order to sort of service the melody, the chord progression is having to really do a lot of heavy lifting to make this melody happen. And so I think when you listen to songs by the Bee Gees, and obviously they're not all like that, but a lot of them are. See, they sound simple, but there's just so much like very really exciting stuff going on in the music. Like the lyrics are often a bit silly, but Chain Reaction, not the best lyric, but like as pop goes, it's about as high quality as pop has ever been, I think.
Absolutely. Well, it's a lot like the Beach Boys. Same thing, man. A lot of those songs sound, if you don't listen closely, they sound pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And then you start looking at it, it's like, oh my God, what is going on here? You've got to have some like heart surgeon degree to be able to figure this thing out.
The other one for that is Penny Lane. Like, it sounds like such a lovely little simple melody. Like, everyone knows the melody to Penny Lane. Like, you try and play it on the fucking piano. It's again, they like key changes in the middle of verses. That you don't notice are there, but like it's a bona fide like key change for like 3 bars, and then it whips back to where you were before, and then it's a different key for the chorus. And as you know, I don't have any musical theory, so I'm in awe of all like this stuff just like blows my mind and impresses me and really excites me as like an enthusiastic amateur when it comes to I suppose the technical side of music performance. Like, I love that stuff, and it's something that I every now and then I sort of try to incorporate some of these interesting and difficult things, but for me it always feels clunky because I'm not doing it sort of fluently and fluidly. I'm sort of trying to crowbar in something clever. It's only very rarely have I managed to make a key change land.
Well, it's an honorable endeavor anyway.
Yeah, but that's gonna be my life's obsession from now on. It's just trying to see how many times I can shift key in the middle of a song.
There you go. Economics to key changes.
Yeah.
Well, with that in mind, what have you been listening to, if anything?
Well, I mean, I've been listening to old recordings of mine. Is what I've been listening to, only because. So one of the reasons I'm doing the songs for the road show is I've been going through all these like old like I found this box of old CDs and like DVDs and like I've got these old hard drives and stuff, and I'm trying to just sort of sort everything out so my life's a little bit more ordered. And so I've got all these old like sessions, Pro Tool sessions from recording of various different things, and I've stumbled upon the rejected version of my second album that I submitted to my record label. They threw literally physically back at me. And
how do you feel about it now, all these years later?
To be honest with you, like, it's not that bad. Like, it's funny. Like the disaster that was my second album has played on my mind a lot over the years, and I've had some real changes of opinion over what went wrong and who was responsible for it going wrong.
Sure.
And I've landed on the opinion that kind of everyone screwed up a bit, and nobody screwed up entirely, but everyone contributed to it being so difficult. And I think that I feel like the reaction of that I got from my record label was way overly dramatic, because you know, going back and opening up these sessions, and with I suppose in the years since I've developed some maybe more sophisticated studio skills, and so I listen to it like a couple of times and go, all right, and then so I've just been fixing things. I've just been like making little edits, doing bits of mixing, and I'm not a great mixer. I don't claim to be. Like I mixed my first album, and then like I've not done any of the stuff since, apart from like, you know, EPs and what have you. But you know, it's not bad, and it's not frustrating. It's quite pleasing in some ways. It kind of makes me go, I wasn't that far off.
Yeah.
And maybe it wasn't the record that they wanted, but like the record that I wanted to make kind of wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't this like god awful mistake. Like, it had some redeeming features. So anyway, what I'm thinking of doing is, and I only have like 4 days to do it now, is choose a few of the songs from the rejected sessions, mix them to a standard that I think is, you know, good, and then release them for the show on Sunday. Just to kind of go, this is, you know, this is where we were, and I set myself rules. Like, I'm not allowed to re-record anything. I'm not allowed to overdub anything. I'm not allowed to add anything. I can take things off, obviously, but yeah, I want it all to just be the same audio that was recorded however many years ago.
Yeah.
13 years ago. Yeah. So that's what I've been doing. I've been listening to myself a lot.
I like that. I mean, I was about to ask that exact thing. If you would consider, you know, putting out into the world the record that could have been in some form or fashion. I think it's a cool idea.
Well, of course, the ironic thing is, I'm pretty sure that legally I'm not allowed to, because under the terms of the recording contract, everything you record under contract belongs to the record label. But I feel morally, since they rejected the album, they clearly don't want it. So I get it back. So so those tracks, I know this is not how the law works. And if the people who own the copyright want to tell me to cease and desist, then I absolutely will. But until such time, I'm going to go with the rather childish viewpoint of you had a chance to own it, you chose not to own it. So I want it back, and I'm going to put it out myself. I'm not going to be able to put out the whole record though, because actually the recordings that I made were the basis for about half the record. It was mostly like the singles that it was deemed were unacceptable and had to be overhauled. And in that respect, they were probably right. Like, they didn't sound like singles, and they never will. But there you go.
Oh man, what am I listening to? In some respects, similar to you, though not entirely. I've been listening to a lot of old voice memos and that kind of thing. Since I'm stuck sitting around the house and have time to actually try to write some tunes, it's always interesting to go back. I don't know if you do this or not, but if I have a quick little idea, I'll just do a little voice memo on my phone, and there's a whole bank of them. That could be a little guitar riff or a lyric idea or whatever. I
very rarely do that myself.
Yeah, it's a handy thing for me. Once upon a time, I would always sit down and actually type out lyrics on a typewriter, and that was my process. I'd sit with my guitar and typewriter. I don't do that anymore because it's a pain in the ass, and you can't do it from everywhere.
Yeah. So typewriter is an interesting affectation. Is paper not good enough for you?
No.
I love it as an idea. I used to be a typewriter guy myself, not so much for writing lyrics out, but I quite like the process of typing with an old typewriter, and I love the appearance of it. And so the ceremony of typewriting, I'm totally on board with. But for writing lyrics, I'm an editor. I need to be able to scribble, cross things out, put things in margins above and around. Ideally, what I need is a proper full A4 notepad with no lines on it, because I can't be writing on lines. And then I've probably got a book here somewhere. Let me see if I can find one.
Let's see it.
Not to hand. I'll find one. I'll find one for next time. And often what I'll find in my notepads is there'll be pages and pages and pages of lyrics, and then there'll be there'll just be something written in red, and it just says, "Ford, what the fuck are you talking about?" And I will sometimes interview myself on the writing process as I'm going. It's what does this mean? And almost like a teacher would mark someone's work.
Yeah.
So that's my process. I never got into the voice memos thing either.
Yeah. Well, that's I guess I've been doing it for a few years now, but it feels still like a relatively new thing for me. But if I'm in in the old days when we were on the road, if I was in a hotel room and had a quick little idea, I would just put it in there, sitting around on the couch or whatever. And then usually I would forget that they were ever there. And a year later, I would be going through and listen to a few and be like, oh shit, that was actually a cool idea. And in the last couple of years, a handful of tunes have been written because of that. You revisit something and it's almost like it's almost like you've just been given this idea, even though it was your idea to begin with. It's like stealing from someone else, which is always more fun.
Have any of those moments yielded tracks on albums?
Well, they've definitely yielded tracks that will be on the next album. I'm trying to think if anything from Ready the Horses was like that. I don't think it was, honestly. That was probably around the time that I was kind of starting to use voice memos anyway, was kind of right after that record. But yeah, a handful of them. In fact, even during lockdown, there have been 2 tunes that I've gone back, and one of them, I had this kind of chord progression idea that that I thought was cool, and ended up writing a tune to that. And another one there was it was a completely different idea, but I I started kind of playing around with it, and then that quickly morphed into a totally different thing. But it was the the thing that got the juices flowing in that moment. So it's kind of a handy thing to do every now and then, is to go and listen to the nonsense. Every like, I don't know, 1 out of every 7 or 8 are actually decent. Most of them it's kind of like, well, I don't know what the hell you were doing there. But yeah, it's been a good thing for me in the last year or so.
Yeah, I find with like I try wherever possible not to. I don't mean I try. Like it doesn't take any effort. But like I just don't sort of record things. Like for me, I like to keep the tunes in my brain.
Right. Yeah.
And then I'll sometimes write down the words. But for my favorite songwriting process is not to write anything down, not to record anything, and not to have an instrument. It's just to almost write the whole song in the brain, and then essentially try and learn how to play it.
Yeah. There's a couple of tunes that, or at least one that will be on the next record, that I wrote completely in my head on a Texas back to Nashville 12-hour drive. And when I got home, I had to try to figure out what the chords were. Surprise, they were pretty easy.
I was going to say, like, yeah, when you do that, and it's not like the Bee Gees, is it? Where they kind of, let's work out how this goes. Oh, that's very interesting and strange. Yeah. No, it's G, C, and D, isn't it?
Yep, pretty much. Little E minor thrown in there for good measure.
Classic. Yeah, I like driving is a great way of writing songs. I love going on a long drive. Like long drives, long walks, anything like that is for me the best way to write songs.
Yeah. For me, those moments are helpful once you've got kind of the seed is already planted. Once you've got a verse down or a chorus or a chord progression or whatever, and you kind of have the form in your head. Then whenever you go for a walk or a long drive, you've got that melody or whatever playing, and it's oftentimes a lot more fruitful than just sitting in your room with your guitar, beating your head against the wall, trying to figure out what's next.
We've not advertised anything yet. Is there anything you'd like to advertise?
Anything I would like to advertise? I mean, I'm not affiliated with any other companies at the minute.
Oh, screw affiliation. This isn't about affiliation. This is like what stuff that you like, that like.
I mean, I'm really into Gretsch guitars. I think Gretsch guitars, particularly the old ones, but a lot of the new ones are pretty damn good.
So that's a new one for you. You were never a Gretsch guy before, were you?
I always dug Gretsch guitars. I just didn't have any. But again, thanks to our pal Brett, who has bought several in the last, I don't know, 8 months or so, I've gotten to get my hands on quite a few of them. And love them. They sound like nothing else,
I like a Gretsch guitar. And actually, I mean, useful for me is actually their cheap guitars are really decent as well.
They're really good, man. I put modern Gretsch stuff personally, without trying to offend anyone who's definitely not listening anyway, I would put them head and shoulders above the other big players as far as modern guitars go. A lot of people would be like, they're made in Japan, they're not made in the US, so it can't be as good. Well, actually, a lot of stuff that's made in Japan is pretty damn good, and often better than stuff that's made elsewhere. And Gretsch guitars are definitely in that group. They are some really well crafted instruments.
Well, there you go.
Even some of their I think some of their others are made in Korea, maybe.
Yeah. And
they're great guitars, man. Like, they sound good, they feel good, they play.
I've got a Korean one over there somewhere, which I like. I mean, I got that one because I was basically, whenever I get a new guitar, I like drill holes in it and stuff, and I don't want to do that with the real thing. It feels sacrilegious, but like I feel like I can buy a cheap Korean guitar and make holes in it and amend it in lots of ungodly ways.
Yeah, great guitar. I remember playing.
I like Gretsch guitars. I can never get myself out of the mindset of like it's gonna break, and then I want to be able to throw it away and get another one. Like particularly for stuff you take on tour, like stuff you take on tour has to be disposable because like it's gonna break. Like I will break it.
Definitely can, yeah.
And it used to be the case it would break because I will kick it, and you know that used to be part of my thing. It was kind of embarrassing, but back in the day, I used to have I used to play like cheap, like the cheapest Les Paul, like the Epiphone Les Paul, not like the proper thing, like these like super cheap, like really bad guitars. This was back in when I was in Easy World.
Yeah.
And I had two of them, and I'd always have to go on tour with two of them because at the end of each gig, like I just smash it up, and then the next day I'd use the other guitar because I would have glued that one back together again, and I was waiting for it to set before I could then play that the following night. And so there was always like one guitar that was like just smashed to pieces and then glued back together again, and then I'd play the other one. And I used to get through a whole tour like that. Just yeah, and they were surprisingly robust. But then as you know, Les Paul is just like a big hunk of wood.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So that was my mindset, like disposable instruments, because I've got to be happy breaking them and not go, oh, I cannot afford to be breaking that one.
Yeah, I remember a particular Cambridge gig years ago that the two of us were doing where you got in one of those zones and you were standing on top of your piano and you were kicking your acoustic guitar. And I remember my guitar was still on stage. And I was just sitting there waiting for you to just kick my guitar to the other end of the room. I think it did end up falling off the stand that night, but it was all good.
Sorry, man. But yeah, but that's the thing, and I think this is maybe the reason why I would tour with like a cheap like one of my favorite live guitars, like for touring with, cost me about £120, and then I spent like more than that on the pickup that went in it, and yeah, I used to just treat it like crap, and usually like if a gig's not going well, I want to be able to throw stuff and kick things, and I often have done. And I remember that Cambridge gig vividly, and I remember what pissed me off is those two people sitting right in the front talking the whole way through.
I remember you were pretty patient about it for a good while, and I remember vividly you stopping mid-song and you said, if I'm playing a gig and everybody's talking, fine. That's just how it is. But if I'm playing a gig and only you are talking and everyone else is paying attention, you're just a dick.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel about it. I've always been of the opinion, like I hate going to shows, and I will tell people not to say it. When they have this whole thing of like you will not talk while the artist is performing. Like, no, don't tell people not to talk. Yeah. Like, it's my job to silence the room. That's on me. And if I can't do it, if I can't get people's attention, and obviously, in some situations it's impossible. Like, if the room's sort of set up strangely, if the bar's right around the corner, and you're the support band and they've come to see someone else, there's some rooms you are never going to quiet.
Of course.
But for the most part, if you do your job right, you can silence a room. And for the most part, I find that happens.
Yeah.
So I would never ask for the room to be silenced so that I can perform. For me, like, my performance has to silence the room. I think that's very important to make that distinction. But if you have successfully silenced an entire room of people, and yet there are some people who just don't understand what's going on, who don't seem to realize that, like, you're in a room of 300 people and everyone is like pin drop quiet, and I'm playing this beautiful, delicate thing, and I've got 298 eyes pairs of eyes, like straight here, and I know, and you know when you've got the audience in your pocket.
Yeah.
And like these people are, it's like a disability. Like some people just can't read that situation right.
Oh yeah.
And so that's the only time that I get angry with an audience, and I get with individuals. If I'm playing a show and everyone's talking, I know that I'm not doing. I suck. Like, you know, that's not their fault. I don't hate anyone in the audience if everyone's talking. It's not their fault. It's like I've screwed up. But if there's two people talking to each other throughout the whole show and everyone else is quiet, I just want to grab them by the throat and just like throw them out of the place.
Well, I remember that particular night when you called them out on it. Everyone else cheered.
Yeah, and then do you remember what happened after that?
Yeah, they kept doing it.
Yeah, they kept doing it. They didn't even realize. I think maybe the first thing that I said was maybe a little bit arty and subtle, you know. I heard a really interesting quote. Like I can't remember who did. I think it was like some jazz musician. And this may have been what I said at the time, but I often think about it and wish I could remember the quote well. There was a jazz musician who said, making music is like, it's like painting, you know, like we paint on a painter will paint on a canvas, but a musician, we put our musical paint on the canvas of silence. And so what happens in a gig, we bring the paint, you bring the silence. And I like that as a you know, as a way of saying, shut the fuck up, I'm playing here.
Yeah.
And I may even have said that or said something sort of similarly subtle, but I think there's a mindset with some people where they don't realize that everyone else can hear them when they're talking.
Yeah. I think a lack of sobriety played into that as well.
Yeah. I think they were kind of wasted. Yeah. It's a shame.
But it made for an interesting gig for those of us who were watching you watch them. It was great.
Yeah. It's a shame though, because like these are some of the parts of playing live that I really enjoy. I enjoy the real time having to read, like to continually keep reading the room.
Yeah.
Like you take signals from them. And I don't even know if audiences appreciate this. And I don't even know if all performers do this. But for me, like when you play a show, you're constantly like sending signals out to the audience, getting signals back. And that informs sometimes what songs you play, because you think the way tonight's going, I feel like this song is gonna do it.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you read the room, and it's all to do with trying to create this magical situation whereby everyone is on the same page, and you have this sort of synergy of performer and audience. And then it's nights like that it's like it does not matter what I do. Like we're not on the same frequency. You cannot be reached. You cannot be shamed. You cannot be like turned. There is no so like, because at first you try and be friendly and like, you know, cheeky, and it's like, hey, maybe, you know, ha ha ha, you know, funny jokes that are basically saying, can you stop talking please? Because like no one else is talking, it's just you, and like we can all hear what you're saying. Like I'm amplified and I can hear the words of your conversation. Like you could whisper in each other's ears and that would probably be fine, but you're yelling at each other from a yard apart. Anyway, but but playing live is these are the adventures that I absolutely love. I used to love being a support act. I've not done it for such a long time. And like just walking out into a noisy room, people who don't care who the hell you are, and like I used to approach it like a boxer, you know, as in like I would get proper psyched up and walk out, and I would stand there before the first song, and I would look at the audience, like everyone chatting, and I go, 20 minutes and you are silent, let's do this. And then like and then you start playing. I said, love it so much.
it's a great feeling, yeah, to walk out to a crowd of complete strangers who don't know and don't care, and know that by the end of it, you will have won them over.
Yeah,
And when that actually happens, it's yeah, it's great, great feeling, man.
yeah,
Miss it, miss playing.
yeah. But I mean, you do way more opening slots than I do. You're like the king of booking great opening slots.
We've gotten a few. It's been a minute. Well, it's been a minute for everyone at this
Yeah,
point.
exactly. Yeah, who's done anything lately?
Yeah. Yeah, we've gotten I don't know if lucky is the right word, but we've been fortunate to get some good ones over the years, particularly in the UK and in Europe. A handful of those you've been on, like the Waterboys run was a
Yeah, yeah.
blast.
Oh, such fun. Yeah,
Oh man, yeah, having what was it, 5 of us crammed in your old van
yeah,
driving all over the UK.
yeah,
A lot of fun playing beautiful theaters.
yeah. That was great. But do you similarly have that? Do you like opening
I love
shows
it.
up?
I love it. Yeah, I mean, not all of them are as amazing as you'd hope,
Yeah,
but exactly like you say, you get a rush. Like I love playing my own gigs, and I certainly prefer being in a room where everybody is there because they know and like my music. Like that's a different
yeah,
um, that's a different feeling entirely. But there is something really great about knowing that you're going to be able to win people over, because it's kind of the way that I would explain it is at the merch table afterward, you often get people who will come up and say something along the lines of, "I never heard of you, but I was really surprised. Like I didn't even know that there was going to be an opener tonight, but man, I'm really glad that there was." Or, "I usually hate the opening act, but you were great."
yeah,
You know, and there is this kind of prideful satisfaction in being like, "Yeah, you're damn right." You know, you may
yeah,
not have known what was about to hit you, but I knew. You know.
yeah. I miss that so much. Like I say, I miss the sort of weird. I don't know. It used to bring out this strange. And it's not competitive. It's not like you want to upstage the main act. Like you always have to be respectful to
Sure.
the people whose audience you're trying to steal. But yeah, it's more of a it's a competition with oneself and with the audience of like yeah, I'm gonna shut you up. Love it.
Oh man.
It doesn't always work. But.
No. Well, with that, should we shut each other up? Have we shot the shit long enough?
Yeah, I think the shit has been truly shot.
Well, it's lovely to see you again.
Yeah, you too, man.